The art of prediction. Among the most important uses of astrology is the art of prediction. When a client consults an astrologer, it is usually to ask questions about the future. Astrologers use many tools to anticipate future conditions. One is the drawing up of an honorary chart, a chart that represents the present moment in which a person is asking the question. The theory behind honorary astrology is that there is sympathy between the cosmos and the human mind. Therefore, when a question is asked, the positions of the planets at that moment can help answer the questions. This theory underlines such predictive techniques as I Ching, tarot, and card reading. Another method of prediction is to study the transits of the planets. You, or an astrologer, would consult an infamous EPHEMERIS to arrive at the exact positions of the planet in the future, say next week or next month, and then compare these positions to the planetary positions in your natal chart. Let's take a hypothetical example in which Jupiter next week was going to be in 27 degrees of Libra, and in your natal chart, your sun is in 27 degrees in Libra. This transit, called transiting Jupiter conjunct natal sun, augurs a fortunate financial trend, activation of energies, and the courage to make the most of opportunity. Another chart drawn for predictive purposes is the solar return chart, a horoscope cast for the exact moment that the sun is passing through the degree of the sign it was in at the moment of birth. The solar return chart is analyzed in respect to your birth chart, and a study is made of the new aspects formed between the two charts. This is a useful tool for seeing trends ahead for the coming year. It is also possible to cast a lunar return chart for the moment that the moon is passing through the degree that it occupies in your natal horoscope. A lunar return chart foretells trends in the coming month. One of the most popular techniques for arriving at predictions is the casting of a progressed birth chart. There are a number of ways to progress a horoscope, but one of the most frequent use is for the day for the year method. This method of progression is based on the theory that there is a relationship in the human psyche between the Earth's daily rotation on its axis and its annual revolution around the sun. The theory postulates that the days following birth represent a person's inner development during the corresponding years. Astrologers also point to biblical references to this method of progression. Numbers 14:34 and Ezekiel 4:6 both speak of each day for a year. And Genesis 29:27 tells of weekly symbolically representing 7 years. To progress your chart, you will begin by drawing up an exact natal birth chart, which includes the precise degree of each house cusp and a precise degree and minute of the sign that every planet occupies in the chart. The next step would be to decide what year in the future you wish to see. If, for example, you were born May 1st, 1975, and you wish to know about the year 2010, you would progress your birth chart ahead to 35 years after your birth. Using the 1 day for the 1 year rule, you arrive at the number of 35 days. 35 days from May 1st, 1975, your birthday, brings you to June 5th, 1975. At this point, you draw up a brand new horoscope for the day of June 5th, 1975. This is your progressed chart. Now you will compare your birth chart with your progressed chart. You would calculate the new planetary aspects formed within the progressed chart and also calculate the planetary aspects formed between the birth chart and the progressed chart. If, for example, your progressed Mars were in opposition to your natal sun, 2010 might be a period of strain and ill health. If your progressed Venus formed a trine with your natal sun, there might be the possibility of marriage in 2010. Whatever the method of prediction, it is wise to keep in mind that astrology is not soothsaying or magic. Astrologers do not predict. What they do is assess future trends and point out possible areas of success or pitfalls. The true value of prediction is to draw attention to the person's strengths so that he or she may take the best advantage of them. Synastry for lovers. When reading horoscopes in newspapers and magazines, a great many people look for advice about love. When they read astrology books, the second thing most people turn to, after reading about themselves, is a description of their lover or mate, or prospective lover or mate. The problem, however, with most astrological analysis is that they are limited, for they are based on sun signs alone. As I have emphasized before, you are not a pure sun sign. You are a unique combination of signs and planets. If you have set up your birth chart as outlined in Chapter 9, you see in front of you a picture of how many different factors go into your horoscope. The same is true for every other person. The most accurate and complete answers about love are to be found in a birth chart. Now that you can cast a simple birth chart for yourself, it is an easier matter to take two birth charts, yours and someone else's, and compare them in order to answer questions about compatibility and love. This comparison of two people's charts to see how they might or might not get along with each other is called synastry. Before you read further about the specifics of synastry, you should be aware that chart comparison is based on the relationship between planets in the two charts. In other words, on the aspects, the harmonious and unharmonious influences determined entirely on how many degrees apart the planets are. Here's an easy way to calculate the aspects between two charts. All you have to do is count signs. How far apart? So the planets in the same sign, the influence, powerful influence, can be beneficial. Name of the aspect is a conjunction. Planets one sign away from each other, influence, strain, common ground is lacking. Name of this aspect is a semisextile. Planets two signs away from each other, the influence, beneficial influence, indicates harmony. Name of the aspect, a sextile. Planets three signs away from each other, tension, but not necessarily irreconcilable differences. There is usually a lot of energy between these two signs. The name of this aspect is a square. Planets four signs away from each other, very harmonious, pleasant and easygoing, sometimes so peaceful things may be dull. The name of this aspect is a trine. Planets six signs away from each other, influence, opposite in the zodiac. There may be lots of arguments and strain, but there is also a strong and stimulating attraction between opposites. Name of this aspect, opposition. To begin your comparison of horoscopes, draw two simplified birth charts, yours and your lover's. The sun and the moon. One of the first things to look at is the position of the sun and moon in both charts. The sun is often referred to as the masculine principle in astrology since it represents a person's outward expression. The moon is called the feminine principle since it represents the emotional side. If a man has the moon in his first house, he is usually the kind of man who is in touch with his emotions, someone who accepts feelings comfortably rather than someone who tries to repress them. If a woman has the sun in her first house, she tends to have a strong sense of self or an authority and dignity about her that is a natural part of her personality. Very often you can tell the kind of woman whose personality will appeal to a man by looking at where the moon is in his chart. Is the moon in Aries or Leo? He probably likes strong, assertive women who refuse to be pushed around. Is the moon in Virgo? He'll likely be attracted to practical and stable women. Is it in Libra or Pisces? He tends to fall in love with romantic, feminine women. Conversely, you can often find out what kind of man intrigues a woman by looking at her sign her sun is in. Is it in Taurus? She probably likes strong, earthy types who have a knack for making money. Is it in Gemini? She tends to be attracted to brainy men, writers, and intellectual types. Keep in mind, though, that people don't always end up with, or sometimes even go out with, the men and women who attract them. People also choose lovers on an unconscious level. For more about why we pick the people we do, consult the influence of Mars and Venus in your love horoscope, page 366. In comparing your two charts, begin with your sun. What is your sun sign? Now consult the aspect table on page 288. Is your sun in a compatible sign to your lover's sun? For example, if you have an Aries sun sign, is your lover's sun sign Leo or Sagittarius, 4 signs away, or Gemini or Aquarius, 2 signs away? Now look at the 2 moon signs. Are they compatible with each other? Don't worry if your 2 sun signs or moon signs are not in the most harmonious aspect to each other. Remember that a square or opposition 3 signs away and 6 signs away may add fireworks to the relationship and also bring interest and excitement. In any case, this is only the beginning of your comparison. The positions of your respective suns and moons are a factor to consider, but only one of many. Here is a very positive factor. If your moon is in the same sign as your lover's sun, or vice versa, this is a wonderful augury. It is a green light to a happy and lasting affair and indicates that each of you should have a deep understanding of the other. Major points of incompatibility. Number 1. If your sun sign is the same as your lover's ascendant, rising sign, or your ascendant is the same as your lover's sun sign, this is a powerful indication of happiness and contentment between you two. Your personalities mesh well because you tend to think alike. Number 2, if your sun sign is in opposition, 6 signs away, to your lover's ascendant, or your ascendant is in the opposition to your lover's sun sign, this is also a possible and a positive influence and bodes well for rapport. In this case, each person will be likely to supply what the other needs or even lacks. For example, if she is a Libra sun and he is an Aries ascendant, he will probably be able to give a push to her lazy nature, while she can bring a touch of elegance and romance to his aggressiveness. Number 3, if your sun sign is the same as the sign of your lover's 10th house, or your 10th house sign is the same as your lover's sun sign, you both mix career and love well. In this case, your aims and goals should be compatible, and each can be a source of power or inspiration to push the other. The sun and ascendant. As you have just read, two powerful influences for compatibility are when the sun and ascendants in the two charts are in conjunction or in opposition. If you don't fall into either category, there are other aspects to consider. Do your sun and your lover's ascendant, or vice versa, form a square 3 signs away from each other? There may be quarrels along the way, and probably more than a little competition between the two of you. But the sparks of feeling between you should at least make the affair interesting. Are your sun and your lover's ascendant, or vice versa, in sextile or trine aspect, 2 signs or 4 signs away? There will be a great deal of tolerance for each other's foibles. You both tend to blend with each other and work harmoniously together. Venus and Mars. Venus, the planet of love, has always been a feminine planet in astrology. It represents your capacity for affection and sharing, your geniality, friendliness, and charm. The position of Venus in your chart tells what kind of effect you have on others. In a woman's chart, it is usually the placement of Venus that gives an indication of her love nature. Mars, which represents energy and aggression, is a masculine planet. It deals specifically with a person's sexual nature, with the fire and passion of sexual response. In a man's chart, if it is the placement of Mars that gives an indication of the way he deals with women. Just as the sun and the moon in your chart indicate to some extent what kind of man or woman you are attracted to, so Venus and Mars point to the kind of person who sexually stirs you. In a woman's chart, the position of Mars will often tell what kind of man arouses her. Very often, the arousal is on a subconscious level. This may be the film star who ignites her imagination, the man at the party she is immediately intrigued by without even thinking about it. In a man's chart, the position of Venus usually indicates the kind of woman he is drawn to. For example, if his Venus is in Gemini, he is likely to be stimulated by a woman who is amusing, lively, and witty. Venus points to the woman who, consciously or not, seizes his emotions. Astrologers always look at the positions of Venus and the moon in a chart to see where a person's emotions are most strongly attracted. There is a powerful sexual attraction when your Venus and your lover's Mars, or vice versa, are in the same sign. Both of you are passionate and sexually responsive. Your love life will be stimulating even if there are temperamental differences. Your Venus is in the same sign as your lover's ascendant, or vice versa. You tend to be imaginative lovers and know what pleases each other. Your Venus is in your lover's sun sign, or vice versa. This indicates not only a joyous sex life, but also mutual interests in other areas. Your Mars is in your lover's moon sign, or vice versa. Can be a volatile combination because of the emotional element. A high-keyed sex life is indicated. I hope I have piqued your interest in learning about charts. The more you work with charts, the more proficient you will become. You will intrigue friends and family with your insights and observations. In addition, as I have stressed throughout this book, you will gain in self-knowledge, which is what astrology is all about.